I've been thinking a lot about this passage lately. It's interesting because I don't recall ever hearing this story in Sunday school growing up. It's not one that is often talked about. I think it's really pertinent to our political situation. This story comes out of the book of First Samuel. It's chapters 4 through 6. This is during the period of the judges. It's before Saul has been anointed king. There's no king in Israel. There's no permanent ruler, if you will. God appoints judges to deliver his people from their enemies at different points along the way. But there is no consistent ruler. It's almost like a theocratic anarchy at this point in time. The refrain throughout Judges is that there was no king in Israel, and every man did as seemed right in his own eyes. Well, we're at the beginning of Samuel. We're getting to another point where the enemies of the people of God, the Philistines in this instance, are threatening Israel again. And Israel decides that they're going to do war. They do not have a judge that has been appointed to lead them and to deliver them, but they go to war. They go to war with the Philistines, and, well, they get beat. They lose 4,000 men. They can't believe this has happened. They're asking, why has this happened? Why didn't God deliver us? And then it occurs to someone, wait a second, why don't we go get the Ark of the Covenant? The symbol of God's presence with his people. As the Israelites were coming into the promised land and Joshua is leading them, they followed the Ark of the Covenant. They followed the Ark of the Covenant as they walked around the city of Jericho. And they were given victory because God was with his people. And so they think, why don't we go get this thing and bring God into the battle as well? Why don't we go get God to fight for us and to do this? Why don't we go get God to do what we want? Why don't we go get God to deliver us? Why don't we strong arm him? Why don't we strong arm him? So they go and they get the Ark of the Covenant and they bring it into the camp. The Israelites become so excited. They got their secret weapon here. This has worked before. It'll work now. The camp just lets out a shout so loud that the enemy camp, the Philistines' camp, they hear it and they're afraid. They're terrified. They think a god has walked into the camp. And in a manner of speaking, God has entered the camp. Well, their leaders end up coaxing their soldiers to go into battle anyway. It's a good thing for them. They end up absolutely trouncing them in the next battle. Now it's 35,000 that are dead on the side of Israel, right? Like, it's not even close. The survivors all run away. The worst part is that the Ark of the Covenant, the most sacred object in Israel, is captured. Right? This is the loot of loot, and the Philistines have it in their possession. And so they take it and they offer it to their god. They place the ark in front of the statue of Dagon in their temple as a tribute. Israel is absolutely devastated because God is not with them. And God allowed them to, number one, lose, and number two, lose badly, and number three, allowed himself to be taken captive. He allowed himself to be captured. Could God have stopped it at any point? Absolutely. Could God have turned the tables and granted Israel victory at any point in time in this battle? Absolutely. So why didn't he? I mean, he's done it before. They walked around Jericho following the Ark of the Covenant. They just walked around the city, and then the walls come tumbling down. So why did he allow defeat? Why did he allow himself to be captured? I think the answer that the text gives us is because God is not a toy. God is not a weapon. God is not a tool for our use. God is meant to be followed. God is not an afterthought. And Israel was treating him like that. They're treating him like a super weapon that will come and will bring out of the closet if we need him, rather than recognizing, number one, that we do God's bidding, God doesn't do our bidding. And so he allows himself to be captured. He allows this object to be taken from Israel, from his people. He allows that calamity to happen to show his people that he is not to be toyed with. He cannot be manipulated. You can't just call upon him to bless whatever you're doing, whatever it is you're trying to do, and have any expectation that he will. He will bless what you are doing if you are doing what he wants you to do. If you are following him, if you are prioritizing him, if you are seeking his kingdom, his glory. So the story doesn't end there. The mercy seat, which is on top where God's presence rests, is put before the statue of Dagon in the Philistine temple, and they offer it as tribute. The priests of Dagon come back in the next day, and they see the statue of Dagon on its face before the Ark of the Covenant. They think, this is strange. That's really weird. God is making this idol bow down and submit before him, even in captivity, even when the circumstances appear to be not favorable to God. God is causing his rival powers to bow before him and submit. This should give us hope, number one, because if our circumstances are a wreck, God is at work. God will cause cancer, death, divorce, you name it, to bow before him. That doesn't mean that everything is going to work out all right. That doesn't mean that there's cure. That doesn't mean that there's reconciliation on this side of eternity. That doesn't mean things are going to go like we want, but it does mean that God is still in control. Even when he is captured, he is in control. He is only captured, only in captivity, because he allows himself to be. Jesus said in John's gospel that no one takes his life from him. He lays it down. He remains in control even when circumstances do not easily show that he is in control. And that's what's happening here when the Ark of the Covenant is before Dagon, and Dagon is on his face before the Ark. So the priests of Dagon set the statue back up, think that's odd, and they leave. The next day, they come back again. Now, this time, destruction has actually happened to this statue of Dagon. Dagon again is prostrate before the Ark of the Covenant, before the real God of the universe. But he's missing his head. He's missing his arms. He's shown to be just a stone image and has no power himself. It gets worse for the Philistines. God is still a captivity. The Israelites still do not possess the Ark of the Covenant. They're distraught. And yet, this story's not over. This pagan tribe, they move the Ark. They move it to a city, and some horrible things start to happen. People break out in sores, tumors. The people start to panic. So they take the Ark and they move it again to a different city. The sores, they follow the Ark, and the Philistines in this city likewise start breaking out. What do we do here? We've got the Ark of the God of Israel. What are we going to do with it? It's bringing calamity upon us. And finally, they decide, okay, we're going to make golden images of these tumors, of these sores, and we're going to place them in the wagon with the Ark, and we're going to take some cows. I believe they were calves that weren't fully weaned yet, so they would be looking for the mother, and they make a beeline for the mother. But In this instance, these calves didn't go for the mother. They were being guided by God, and God returns the ark to his people by guiding these animals. So Israel gets the ark back. This story out of Israel's history is a reminder that God is not on our side as Americans. God is not on our side as evangelicals here in America. In the best case scenario, we can be on God's side. And those aren't the same thing. One is trying to conscript God to our purposes, our goals. This is exactly what is in view with the third commandment about not using God's name in vain. We typically try and make that about what words you say and you don't say when you stub your toe. I think it includes that. But the much broader principle here is about taking God seriously and treating him with respect and not attaching his name to whatever goal that we have. I think we see this a lot in the Republican Party. The civic religion that is pushed by Republicans right now is we're going to attach God to our political programs. Sometimes I think they're correct in saying, yeah, God wants an end to abortion. Absolutely right there. Other times, I think they're more concerned with particular policies. Other times, I think they're more concerned with paying lip service to God and saying God will be on our side. I think you saw that from some of the speakers at Charlie Kirk's memorial service. I'm thinking of Stephen Miller in particular and how he said, oh, God's on our side. And then his entire speech was just a tirade and a taunting of the political left. And I don't think that that's what Jesus wants. He doesn't want to have lip service paid to him. But we can't delude ourselves into thinking that even this lip service is better than what the godless liberals are doing. We can't be prideful. We can't bring God out of the temple when it's convenient for us and make him go to war with us into our battles. He may just allow us to experience the worst devastation that we've experienced, and he may allow himself to be captured to make a point to us, to instruct us that he is not a toy. He's not a secret weapon. He is our king. He is our God. We need to follow him into battle when he wants us to go to battle, not picking a battle and saying, oh, we're going to bring him along. He hadn't blessed those efforts. He hadn't called Israel to go to war at that point. Something to think about. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Am I way off here? What do you think? God bless.